Like, it's okay to be an outlier. It's not the same as being an outsider. I don't need to have representation. And I just think that this is a huge problem, not just with writing, but just like in terms of the way people think of their relationship to the world.
Hi, I'm Phoebe Maltz Bovy, opinion editor of the Canadian Jewish News. You're listening to The Jewish Angle, a podcast that looks at the complicated place of Jews in today's cultural and political landscapes. Our guest today is Meghan Daum. She's the author of many wonderful books, as well as a Substack-era salonier, the force behind the Unspeakeasy, which, per the website and per my observations of it, is a multifaceted community and forum devoted to viewpoint diversity and free expression. I've been a fan of Meghan's writing and podcasts for ages, but wanted to have her on The Jewish Angle since before knowing it would even be called The Jewish Angle, because she's got a really unparalleled gift for language as well as for making sense of the times we live in. So a lot of what I'm hoping to do on this podcast generally is just kind of make sense of where Jews fit in the world, what's going on. And to figure that out, it often, we need to know just generally what's happening in the world. I am very sad to say we cannot claim you, Meghan, as one of our own, but if I'm allowed to bestow honorary status, and I'm going to say I am, because that doesn't mean anything, so I can say it, you can be honorary. Meghan, do you want to be honorary for this? You can be honorary Canadian Jew, even if you want.
Oh, even better. I've been an honorary Jew for a very long time, actually. So I'm happy to have my membership renewed here.
Excellent. Well, welcome to The Jewish Angle.
Thank you.
So your most recent book is called The Catastrophe Hour. It's a book of essays. It is fantastic. Everybody should read it. Everybody should take a picture of their pet with it and post that to social media. The title of the book, excuse me, is obviously very poignant considering that your home burnt down in California, in the California wildfires. But please, for those who don't know, explain the timeline of this. This is not a book with that title for that reason.
Yeah, I'm not that fast of a writer. The book is called The Catastrophe Hour. The title essay, The Catastrophe Hour, refers to many things. There's a kind of existential catastrophe hour that I talk about in the book because it has a lot to do with sort of feelings of aging and kind of impending sense of doom, sort of existential confusion and concern.
And you're not Jewish.
I know, exactly. Maybe
okay.
I should. I've never done like DNA testing or 23andMe or anything, so perhaps I am. But the catastrophe hour is sort of a metaphor in the book, and the title essay does have to do with a house, and maybe we can get into that later. But yes, the book was finished in the fall of 2024. It was printed by the end of December 2024. And then on January 8th, 2025, the house I was living in burned down in the Los Angeles wildfires. So for once, I was ahead of the curve. I'm always late, but this time I was early.
Oh, well, I'm just so sorry that happened. It's just, it's really...
Well, thank you. It's
terrible.
It happened to tens of thousands of people, and obviously you don't want something to happen to tens of thousands of people. It would be better if it just happened to one person or 0 people. Mm-hmm. But there is something about being part of a collective catastrophe that is, I think it's very different than having to go through it yourself. You feel like you're part of a larger thing. I mean, you're dealing with this incredible personal loss, but you're also part of history. Mm-hmm. So it's a very sort of interesting, unusual thing.
I was wondering, because I wanted to talk actually a little bit about that essay about the catastrophe hour, and just you talk a lot about real estate and your emotional relationship to real estate. I found a lot of this relatable. I have spent a lot of time thinking about which $5 million, $30 million houses I would or wouldn't, totally wouldn't buy with all of that non-existent money. And, it's a thing to do, right? And I was wondering whether your experiences, though, have changed how, like, your emotional relationship to real estate. Like, do you see it all differently now? Does it? And if so,
No.
how? You don't?
Nothing will cure my relationship to real estate. So in 2010, I published an entire book called Life Would Be Perfect If I Lived in That House. And it was tracing my sort of relationship to domestic space and interior space. And I mean, even back when I was a little girl, like I hated dolls, but I loved doll houses. And I would like take these doll houses and put saran wrap on them. So I was constructing like a modern glass house. And like, I didn't care about the dolls.
Goodness.
Yeah. I didn't care about the dolls who lived in there. But yeah, it's funny because, at the end of and it talks about, buying my first house in Los Angeles. And, at the end of the book, I remember the editor said, well, we really need to see you have an arc. Like, we really need to see you come out on the other side of this, of realizing that there's more important things than owning a home, or, because my mother dies at the end of the book. And I kind of rigged up this ending where I was like, now I realize that there's so much more to life than, you can have a home without worrying about the physical space of the home. And it was a total lie. It was not true at all. Like I'm never going to get over this obsession. And it's part of who I am. And it's a creative expression, and it's almost a spiritual practice. So yeah, I'm afraid I'm stuck here.
Well, so that actually, I'm going to jump to one of my much later questions because this is relevant now, which is, so what really struck me in your book, in The Catastrophe Hour, is that you're writing personal essays, but they don't have this kind of quality that I find a lot of personal essays, or at least the ones these days have, of like, I am now on a higher plane of self-knowledge, and I will tell you how to live your life, and you can be like me and be a good person like I am. And it's not that you're like, it's not the opposite either. It's not some kind of like deeply self-deprecating, like abject, woe is me thing either. It's more just like, it seems like you're tapping into this deep self-understanding, but in a self-examination, but it's not in the sense of like an ad for your way of life, whatever.
Oh God, no.
It's not like this, I now understand how to be better about things, and this is why I have the following approach to whatever it is, whether it's real estate, age,
right,
beauty, whatever, like it's not like you have so I guess I was wondering, just like, so you teach writing also, and how do you, like, as a matter of technique, how do you do that? Or is that just like what flows from you if an editor doesn't push you to do the other thing?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I always say, like, if you go through a traumatic experience or something, the goal really should come out the same person as you were before. like we sort of romanticize this idea, like, oh, I'm going to change. I'm a new person. And I mean, presuming that your life was basically okay before, I would think the goal would be to have some sort of like, existential integrity and sort of stay the same. I mean, obviously there are exceptions. People want to change their lives, fine. But to me, to answer your question, I think that especially a personal essay, any kind of writing, but especially an essay, it's a suggestion. You're inviting your reader to think alongside you. You're saying, we assume something to be one way. This is the conventional wisdom about this kind of experience or phenomenon or just thing happening in the world, thing that happens to us in life. And the conventional wisdom is to see it in this one way. What would happen if we looked at it in another way? And I'm not necessarily right about the way I'm looking at it. And I'm not telling you this is the gospel truth, but it's an invitation or a suggestion. And I think, to me, like, that's really the best we can do. And it's much more of an intimate experience with the reader, I think, rather than telling them how to be.
What's your online life like these days? I see that you have exactly one post on Blue Sky, which seems to be where a lot of these tendencies have migrated to. Yeah. Are you less online than you used to be?
Well, I keep losing Twitter followers or X followers. None of my posts get any traction there. And yeah, Blue Sky, I think I went on, I joined initially, and I think I said something like, "Don't make me come over here." Maybe that's my tweet. Oh no, it was something like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and again, expecting a different result. And to me, that was joining the prospect of joining Blue Sky. No, I don't want to. If I typed I don't know if you're on Blue Sky a lot. If I typed my name into there, I would see things that would hurt my feelings, and I just don't need to do that.
I was canceled on Blue Sky, and I use the scare quotes canceled, like, because it was interesting because it just had no sort of like material relationship to my life in any way, but it was a very sort of fraught day when everybody hated me on there. And do you want to know what I was canceled on Blue Sky for?
Please.
So you're expecting something really controversial. You're expecting maybe something Israeli-Palestinian conflict. No. Not gender. Nothing like specific. No, it was that I had written for the Globe and Mail a column saying that I was not enamored of Blue Sky.
Oh, well.
And
yeah.
That's not allowed. That's not allowed. So never have I seen so many people so furious. I had a Princeton professor making fun of my name. It was a lot of Canada's kind of version of The Onion did a satire of me.
Wow, that's impressive.
But the reason I bring this up is not just to share one of my
it's a humble brag,
glamorous,
Phoebe, kind of.
Yeah. Well, but it's also it's relevant though, because it's this whole thing of like what I was saying is that I didn't think it was good for there to be this platform that's an echo chamber in terms of like, if the whole point is to fight Trump, I don't think this is effective. And if you say that seems to get people upset.
Just the fact that there's a Princeton professor that would be on a social media platform making fun of somebody's name. I mean, that is an example of how this kind of left excess still dominates the culture. I mean, the people that you have doing the really ugly right-wing stuff on social media, for the most part, they're anonymous accounts. They're losers. Like they don't have agency. Some of them are, Russian bots or, kind of like accounts from places in the world, God knows where, but they're not Princeton professors. And so I just think that remains like a notable difference.
Well, what's interesting to me about the way, like when people talk about vibe shift or whatever, I think there are just two, or more than two, but really like effectively two main sort of whatever vibes or ideologies or whatever struggling against each other for dominance, like left and right would be the sort of shorthand for it, I guess. And it's not that when one is seeming to be ascendant, the other disappears, or, like both things are trying to have power. And like, yeah, Trump can really screw over Harvard, as he is doing at the time of our recording this on May 29th. But that doesn't mean that like Harvard has ceased to exist, that the people who support it cease. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't mean that Princeton professors cease to have any kind of authority in the world. It's complicated. But I wanted to talk more about this online versus offline thing for a moment, because the problem with everything is really about this very online life, and like podcasts and the internet and so forth. But you're really clear in the catastrophe hour that you're not doing takes, that this isn't like online reaction. So what distinguishes between like a take and an essay that's sort of more grass touching?
Oh, well, I guess a take would be something written under duress. Like somebody commissions you, or somebody says, okay, do you have a take? I need 900 words by 5:00. Or if you feel somehow that compelled to say something on Substack or on your blog or whatever, because you're competing with other bloggers. I spent 12 years writing a weekly newspaper column, and I had to have a take every week, and I just broke my brain from that. I can't have any more. I think the pieces are longer. They're longer, and they're sort of weirder, and they talk about just stuff in the world, kind of in the ether. I mean, they're just sort of harder to grasp, and it takes longer to get at it. And yeah, it's definitely not a take. I mean, there's a couple of pieces in there that are a little more like, oh, I have a concept I want to get across here. There's maybe some kind of point, maybe, but they're mostly. This book is like more artistic. I mean, it's much more like my book, The Unspeakable, which was similar in that way. And in that case, all the essays were written for the book itself. None of them had been previously published.
I mean, you do have a reference, though, to the internet in the formatting of the essay Femcel Cope, which has
Yes.
the names blacked out incel tweets, basically.
Right. Yeah, I wish I had not called that piece Femcel Cope. It's also, it has a
really?
parenthetical title.
I
do?
like
Okay.
it, actually,
I
yeah,
really struggle with this because so it's called Femcel Cope, or a case against early marriage. And I, for some reason, get a lot of content from like pro-natalist, kind of new trad, incel, like younger people who are obsessed with this idea that the mating crisis has broken down to such a degree that we need to get back to this like very traditional way, and that women, the ascendance of women has been a massive net negative for the culture. Like, I find this discourse super interesting, actually, and I think that there's like a teeny kernel of truth to some of it, and just unfortunately, it's been like bastardized and completely descended into just toxic disgustingness. It's something that Sarah Hayter and I talked about a lot on our podcast, A Special Place in Hell, when we were doing it. But yeah, I mean, I was interested in this idea of taking these the worst kind of right-wing incel tweets about women, they hit the wall when they're 21, or like, if you're not, your eggs, you have an empty egg carton. If the empty egg carton meme, they would just post, and that just means like you're so old and dried up, all your eggs are no good. At age 25, you're of no value.
Okay, so I'm old enough to remember a National Review Online article from the early 2000s, and I'm blanking on the name of the person, Derbyshire,
okay,
about women peaking at like 15 or something. And I was quite young when I read it, but well over 15, and I had definitely, by the standards of this article in the National Review Online, I was over the hill. I remember this well. Yeah. So they've multiplied.
They shift the goalposts.
They have gone forth and multiplied the people with these notions. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I wanted to do with that piece is just take my own story of having a very late marriage that ended up ending in divorce amicably, and just kind of telling the history of my dating and relationships, and wrapping that history around these kinds of tweets. And I was very reluctant to do that because I don't like writing about my personal life, especially any kind of dating life. And it really would take a lot. Like, there had to be some real like sort of conceptual payoff in order to do that. But I really just wanted to kind of look at like how, in fact, if you settle down when you're 20, there's a pretty good chance that you're not fully formed and you're going to choose the wrong person. And it's probably not a great idea.
I mean, I really love that essay. And I also think that what's just so great about your writing on this topic generally is that it doesn't fall into one of these categories, right? Like, it's not the ban men essay.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's
right.
not the like divorce as empowerment.
No.
Everybody should have a divorce, even if they're happily married. They should just
everyone should
feminism,
do it at least once.
But it's like, it just doesn't, it's not making, it doesn't have like a thesis in that sense. Like the title kind of does in a more like, but it's not really like a thesis of everybody must do. It's very specific. It's extremely specific. And I think that's maybe what it was that I liked so much about it.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, again, I think why I'm so take averse now is that there is this kind of convention with nonfiction writing, especially if you're a culture writer, sort of take your personal experience and then try to map it onto some larger trend and show how whatever it is you're talking about is not just a particular thing. It's part of a movement and everybody is doing it. And look, that's how you get published. Editors want that kind of piece. That's how you end up in style sections. Like, that's how you get even a book contract. It's not just like, this is the story of my divorce. This is the story of how all women of this generation are getting divorced right now in this particular way.
Oh, yes. Go on. Sorry.
Yeah. No. And the thing is, like, I think, and really I started to think about this more when I was writing a lot about choosing not to have children. And about 10 years ago, I put out a book of essays by writers called about childlessness by choice. And it's like, we're actually outliers. Like I am an outlier in so many ways. I'm not like most people. The things that make me happy are different than most people. The choices I make, the things I don't want, a lot of people do want. And I don't need for that to be the norm. Like, it's okay to be an outlier. It's not the same as being an outsider. I don't need to have representation. And I just think that this is a huge problem, not just with writing and stuff that's published and culture pieces that you see, but just like in terms of the way people think of their relationship to the world. It's like, oh, if my particular choices are not validated and globalized, that I'm erased somehow. And in fact, it's just, no, just be an outlier, just be different. It's fine. It's better.
On that note, which I could not agree more, and I could not have said it better myself, you've written and come on the podcast I had been on at the Canadian Jewish News, Bonjour Hi, to discuss. You've written about your life as a shiksa, and but beyond that, a lot of what you describe in the Catastrophe Hour also has this kind of there's like something Jewish going on here.
Oh.
Here, wait for the Jewish angle. Okay, here it is. I've saved the Jewish angle for last. Both the way your adult life has been largely split between New York and LA, rather Jewish. Woody Allen's work makes appearances, very Jewish. But also just like sensibility-wise, like the way you sit in this kind of ideologically pro-free speech, but not in this sort of code for right-wing populism way. That particular heterodox, or whatever you want to call it, space, like, I don't want to say that you were the token Gentile in it, but like, not so far off. How did, like, there? I don't know, unless I'm just.
Oh no, I love
Barry
it.
Weiss takes up so much of my headspace that maybe
there's no other Gentiles in this.
No, I'm sure there are.
space?
I'm sure there are.
No,
There's Katie
so
Herzog. There's
interesting.
Katie Herzog, and her name throws people off.
Well, there's
but she's
Kat
not Jewish either.
Rosenfield. Is she Jewish? She's not Jewish, is she?
She is part Jewish, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. That explains it. That explains her brilliance.
But how did it happen?
I think I just read a lot of Philip Roth, and when I was younger, I consumed culture that was very Jewish, and I was enamored of New York City intellectuals. I mean, I was growing up, first in Texas when I was younger, and then in the suburbs, like in the New Jersey suburbs. And my parents were from the Midwest. I mean, my parents were like very aspirational and, had come from pretty provincial backgrounds and were always kind of like on the outside looking in and trying to simulate some kind of sophistication. And so that was like a big theme in our house. But no, I got hooked on that sort of stuff, like even, Norman Mailer and just that kind of cultural critique. And Woody Allen, of course, loomed so large. And I don't know, that kind of humor just really, really appealed to me. I mean, I don't know that it's necessarily, I also like read a lot of John Irving novels when I was young, and he's not Jewish, but there's something, there's like an absurdist, it's kind of raunchiness, intellectual raunchiness to it. So I don't know. But I'm always the shiksa. Like but the thing is that I identify as the other. Like in any kind, like in all this Philip Roth novels or like in Woody Allen movie, like I'm not I'm the Diane Keaton character,
She did have pretty good outfits.
Yeah, and I wrote about that. So I very famously wrote this piece. It came out in 1996 in GQ. It was called American Shiksa, and it ended up being in my first book, My Misspent Youth. And it was so this would never fly now. This would never be published. I mean, it was.
Well, maybe it would. Okay. I think it would now. No, it would now. It would now because but not even because of like Trump or something like this. No, but like we talked about on Bonjour Hi, nobody wants this. That TV show is
right. Oh yeah, that's right. We talked about that.
The
piece. A lot of people thought it was anti-Semitic. I was just trying to write like Portnoy's complaint from the shiksa point of view. That's what I was trying to do in the piece. I was 26 years old, mind you. Okay, so I didn't have quite the literary chops.
It's a great piece that people should read.
Well, thank you.
People who have the like bandwidth for not doing a kind of like 2010s like looking for reasons to be angry at something.
I mean, the thing about being a shiksa was I felt that it was a way, like I always felt like Jewish men, I should not be saying this publicly. Like they just liked me. Like I could get that. Like it was a slam dunk, you know? Like I knew how to appeal in that way.
It's so interesting. Yeah, I guess I never, like, it's so, if you're a Jewish woman in the general dating world, most of the men you're meeting are not Jewish, right? And I would meet some men who were like into Jewish women, but it also just, and I'm sure there were some who particularly weren't, though I think the only men I would ever meet who really weren't would be Jewish men. Like some Jewish men. There are some Jewish men who are really not into Jewish women. At least there were in 1800 when I was, when my stories are from.
Maybe to date, but like ultimately
they would
rather marry a Jewish woman.
No,
really?
No. I mean, intermarriage rates are like half or something in the U.S.
I mean, I was married to a Jewish guy. And I think his parents kind of tolerated it. But
and I'm married to a non-Jewish guy. And I mean, for quite a long time now. So it's, But what's interesting to me about this, though, not that my own life isn't infinitely fascinating to me in all sorts of ways, but just about these dynamics, is that like there isn't like a trope for this, like the Jewish woman and the non-Jewish man. There's no sort of like
right.
And there used to be, like in 19th century France, there was, but like today there just isn't. That doesn't really exist in the culture. It can happen. People are like, okay, that happened. So Meghan, I could keep chatting with you about pop culture all day, but I'm sure you have places to be. Where can people find you? And also, what do you have that you wish to most promote at this point in time? Okay, people can find me far too many places, and it's extremely confusing. And I am trying to streamline this. I think many of us in the content creation space have this particular problem. You can go to meghandaum.com. That is my author page, and it has links to my books and other things that I'm doing. You can also go to my Substack, and that is theunspeakablepodcast.com. And that will take you to my podcast, The Unspeakable, which is slowly being named The Unspeakeasy Podcast. It's a weekly interview show. And The Unspeakeasy is the intellectual community that has arisen out of the podcast. We have an online forum that is membership-based, that is just for women, and we have amazing things in there. But we also have retreats, and they are in person, they are off the record, they are intimate, and they are usually just for women, but we are planning a co-ed retreat in New York City in October with multiple speakers and more attendees. Our speakers include John McWhorter, Carol Hooven, Mike Pesca, Peter Moskos, Lisa Sellen Davis, and we're adding Alana Newhouse from Tablet. We're adding more and more all the time, and it's going to be really special. It's like basically a little mini ideas festival, and the events quickly open up and become group discussions with the audience. And it's October 11th and 12th, so they can go to the Unspeakeasy/retreats to find out about that. Very cool. And do one in Canada. Do several in Canada. I'm trying. They might. You might not let me. They might not let us in. Well, at a certain point, that I don't control. But okay. Meghan, thank you so much for coming on. This was great. Always a pleasure, Phoebe. Thank you. Thank you for listening to The Jewish Angle, a podcast from the Canadian Jewish News. This has been Phoebe Maltz Bovy, opinion editor of the CJN and a contributing editor of Scribe Quarterly, the CJN's print magazine. The show is produced and edited by Michael Fraiman. Our music is by Frank Freeman. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to The Jewish Angle wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.